What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 25 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast on this Monday, December 2nd, 2024. I'm your host, Zach Malamud. After a nice Thanksgiving break, excited again to talk all the latest in New York sports. Before we get started, please subscribe below. Follow all of my social accounts. Let's start today's episode with a couple of recaps. Obviously, the Thanksgiving break, so couldn't recap the Thanksgiving Day game between the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys. So let's get to that as the Cowboys were victorious in the end on their home field in Jerry's World. A 27-20 win for Dallas to move them to 5-7. Giants fall to 2-10 at the bottom of the NFL. And when you look at this game overall for the Giants, they had the lead in the first quarter. Tyrone Tracy with a rushing touchdown to give the Giants a 7-3 lead. But then you look at the turnovers for the Giants in the end. A couple of turnovers from Drew Lock in this game. It was a interception that turned into a pick six by Overshown that really ended up, I think, describing how this game would go for the New York Giants. A 13-7 lead that gave the Dallas Cowboys that pick six in the end. And then when you look at the fumble as well from Drew Lock, cannot hold on to the ball, and the Giants end up falling to a 27-10 deficit. They get a couple scores, and the Graham Gano field goal plus the Drew Lock rushing touchdown make it maybe a closer score than really expected in this one. But this one was pretty much dominated by the Cowboys, and the Giants offense could not get a lot going, and Malik Neighbors had a solid output in the end. Obviously, that's a positive based on the quarterback situation that they've had in recent weeks and not being able to get Neighbors the ball. Neighbors, of course, Tommy DeVito out for this one, gets 8 receptions and 69 yards. Not a score from Drew Lock in the end, who went 21 of 32, 178 passing yards, a interception plus a fumble. Did have 57 rushing yards on the ground plus that rushing touchdown. But the story of this game for the Giants was the defense did not look like they were really ready to go and really up for a fight against this Dallas Cowboys offense, where Rico Dowdle was able to really run through the Giants in the end. 22 carries, 112 yards, plus a touchdown. I think this stretch of games now, and obviously the rest of this season, maybe 5 games to go, the Giants, these last couple of games really come down to, are Brian Daboll as well as Joe Schoen going to be back next year for the New York Giants as head coach and general manager? And the story of this season would be, will the Giants fight for those guys to stay for another year? I think when you look at this locker room, I think they're just on an edge when it comes to Brian Daboll, probably not really on the same page. And we've heard a lot of disagreements between those guys and the locker room in recent weeks. So I think it's definitely an interesting one. Those guys will be fighting for their jobs, though, in these last 5 games, and have to hope that this locker room can get it together and maybe pick up a win or two. But if they lose out 2-15 to end the year, I just don't see a chance that those guys end up returning. I think the loss of the locker room will just add fuel to fire. And heading into next season, that's not a good sign, as the Giants really want to turn things around heading into next year after they are eliminated officially from playoff contention. Not even close to it this year, but sit in 2-10 at the bottom of the NFC and at the bottom of the NFL. So this one should be interesting. Obviously, the Giants now move on to next week's game at home against New Orleans. New Orleans not playing as well as they want to right now, and that should be interesting. Can the Giants grab a win? Can they figure something out at home where they've been absolutely dreadful so far this season? But the Cowboys get a 27-20 win in the end on Thanksgiving Day over the New York Giants. Let's shift things to the other side of MetLife Stadium, as the New York Jets were in action on Sunday, and they lost to the Seattle Seahawks 26-21. Seahawks move to 7-5. Jets fall and stare at a 3-9 record on the year in a game that the Jets really feel like they probably should have won in the end, and a bunch of mistakes and a really stalemate second half for the Jets offense after they really were controlling this game, and a couple of touchdowns. Isaiah Davis, Devontae Adams, Jets lead 14-0. Even got a 2-point conversion to go with Breece Hall on the Davis touchdown. But you look at then Seattle coming back. They were down 21-7. Nwanwu had a 99-yard kickoff return for the Jets, and special teams is working. The offense is working. The defense is working. And all of a sudden, the Jets are in the red zone. Leonard Williams picks off Aaron Rodgers, a pick six to cut the lead to 8 at that point. And all of a sudden, the Jets just fell apart. The offense imploded in the second half, just couldn't figure things out. And Seattle just put scores up on the board and grab a 26-21 victory. In the end, the first half looked really good, like I said. And once it got to the point of that pick six by Leonard Williams, I mean, this game was just one-sided. Seattle figuring things out on offense. The Jets can't figure out absolutely anything. And in the end, they fall to Seattle. Rodgers in this game, 21 of 39, 185 yards, plus 2 touchdowns and an interception. The interception, of course, the pick six. But then you look at the receivers on the Jets side. The Jets side, it was Devontae Adams with 5 receptions, 66 yards, and a touchdown. Garrett Wilson, 5 receptions, 41 yards, no touchdowns. But the big thing, again, each and every week is the targets. 12 targets for Adams. That means there's 7 incompletions that you just don't know what's going to happen, whether it's a miscommunication from him and Rodgers, or just a bad throw in the end from Aaron Rodgers, or it's even just a drop for Devontae Adams. It happens both ways. Wilson had 10 targets, and the same goes for Garrett Wilson as Devontae Adams. And in the end, those two guys should be on the same page. They're all-world wide receivers paired with an all-world quarterback who's probably, not all-world anymore, but even so, a Hall of Fame quarterback, they got to figure something out, and it's the story every week. They just cannot get on the same page, and the Jets fall once again because the offense really just it becomes nothing once the second half arrives. So that's a stinger for the Jets, and 26-21, they fall to the Seattle Seahawks, move to 3-9 on the year. A really disappointing Jets season just has another loss added to it, and now they have to go to Miami. Plus, then they are at Jacksonville. So 2 straight games on the road. And maybe getting away from home is good for the Jets. They haven't been great there. Yeah, they've gotten a couple wins on their home field, Texans and Patriots. But even so, just anything to give the Jets some positive vibes. And there's none of that right now. Even when there was positive vibes in this game, they still found a way to screw it up and lose. So should be interesting the next couple of weeks. They go to Miami next week, but they fall 26-21 to the Seattle Seahawks on Sunday. Let's head to the NBA as both New York teams in action. Let's start with the New York Knicks, a 118-85 victory over the New Orleans Pelicans. And the Knicks feeling good right now, 12-8 now on the year. And yeah, they had that road trip that they finished up with a 3-2 record in the end, and a couple of big time wins against the Suns as well as the Nuggets. They then played very poorly against the Hornets, but were somehow able to grab the win, a 99-98 victory they got just last week. And when you look at those 2 losses that they had, the Utah Jazz and Dallas Mavericks games that they maybe should have won. I think when you look at the Mavericks, yeah, it's a team that's struggling, but the talent is still there. So not one that you're going to really harp on if you're a Knicks fan for the New York Knicks in the end. But the Utah Jazz, I mean, they've just had the Knicks number somehow, a team that's sitting towards the bottom of the Western Conference, really the bottom of the NBA, and somehow is able to still get wins against this Knicks team. So just dropping random games here and there, not a great sign for the Knicks. I don't think it's something to really too much worry about as far as the Knicks right now. It's early in the season, but as we get closer to playoff time and later in the season, like dropping random games, it does not work like that. And they have to continue to try and get higher seeds. And it's just going to ultimately hurt their chances when it comes to playoff time if they lose those games, and leads to worse seeding in the end. But right now, not something to really truly worry about, but they get the 3-2 road trip, and then they come back home and absolutely crush the Pelicans. So talking about that game, a 118-85 loss, or 118-85 win, excuse me, that I mentioned for New York. They moved to 12-8. Pelicans fall to 4-17. The story of this game was Mikal Bridges, who was really, really solid in this one. 31 points, 12 of 19 shooting in the end for him. And on an off night, really, for Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns, Brunson shot 4 of 11 from the field. Towns shot 4 of 12. We're able to still put up double-digit points. Brunson with 16, Towns with 14, and Towns also grabbing 19 rebounds in this one. 17 of those were in the first half. So what a performance down low from Towns, really taking advantage of the really ailing right now New Orleans Pelicans. So that was a big sign for the Knicks that Towns and Brunson continue to roll even on off days. They still figure out ways to get their guys involved. And Mikal Bridges, like I said, the story of this one, and you look at him plus a guy like OG Anunoby, and then you add Josh Hart into it. Any of those guys step up on a night and put up some good numbers, it's going to be a good sign for the New York Knicks because they have those 5 guys and just figuring things out, how to win games and how to win games together. I think for the meshing of this team, it's good to see one guy have one night, one guy have another night, as well as Towns and Brunson continuously putting up numbers and getting the job done for New York. So definitely a good sign, a good victory for the New York Knicks, a 118-85 victory over the New Orleans Pelicans. Let's bring things to the Brooklyn Nets, as tonight they'll take on the Chicago Bulls, an 8 o'clock start, as the 9-12 Brooklyn Nets versus the 8-13 Chicago Bulls. Both of these teams coming off of losses, as the Nets fell twice in a row to the Orlando Magic. 2 straight home games. One was an NBA Cup game, one was not. But Orlando both times have the Nets number, a 123-100 victory over the Brooklyn Nets in the first game for the Magic. And then the second game yesterday was a 100-92 victory for the Orlando Magic. And the Nets fall to 9-12 after a really astonishing road trip that they had, and give them credit. They go 3-1 on the road trip, but they fly to the West Coast, and on the West Coast they are 3-0 there. A 108-103 win over the Kings, a 128-120 win over the Warriors, finished off by a 127-117 win over the Phoenix Suns. So those 3 straight wins really, I think, help the confidence of this Brooklyn Nets team. Of course, Cam Thomas being out now definitely hurts them. A couple of guys are real game time decisions tonight against the Chicago Bulls. A lot of guys, and for that reason, the Bulls come in as 5.5 point favorites. Now they sit as 6.5 point favorites in this game, total sitting at 233.5. But because of all those injuries, that kind of hurts the Brooklyn Nets' chances now of starting to rack up more wins. I definitely think that road trip was a positive sign, but if they keep piling up these injuries, it's not going to be a good stretch here for Brooklyn. So they'll have to figure those things out. But they go to Chicago tonight, an 8 o'clock start, and the Bulls come in 6.5 point favorites. Tune into that one later. Let's finish things off today with a Monday Night Football preview. It's the 3-8 Cleveland Browns taking on the 7-5 Denver Broncos at Mile High at 8:15 tonight. Denver comes in as 6-point favorites, total sitting at 42.5. The story of this game, I feel like it's in the hands of Bo Nix, who's been really strong so far in his rookie year in Denver. And what a job Sean Payton has done with his rookie quarterback and this team overall. They're sitting right in the middle of the AFC wild card. They're feeling great right now off 2 straight wins against Vegas and Atlanta. And when you look at this Denver team, I mean, they are a hard team to beat up, especially when they're on their home field, and a 3-2 record. But they've played some tough teams and great games at Mile High this season. And I think when you look at this game overall, they cannot take a day off when they look at this Cleveland Browns team, who had a really long rest in the end. They won that Thursday night football game, that snowy game in Cleveland against Pittsburgh, on the 21st of November. They have not played since then, a 24-19 win there. Now they have a very long break and go to Monday Night Football in Denver. So they're very well rested. And I think the story of this game overall, like I said, is Bo Nix and getting the ball in his hands and allowing him to get the job done But when you look at these two teams, it's not going to be an easy game. Denver has to really establish that run game like they do every game, and really a tandem in the backfield that they have with guys back there in Javonte Williams as well as Jaleel McLaughlin's there. I think a lot of this story for Denver, relying on Bo Nix, getting the job done and finding those guys in the backfield, as well as Courtland Sutton, who's been outstanding so far this season and is having a really, really great stretch of games for Denver right now. So this one should be an interesting one. 6-point favorites. I'm going to pick Denver. They're at home. It's an easy one in my mind for them to really allow this defense to go after Jameis Winston and the Browns offense. Jedrick Will is going to miss this game, so that's a big loss at tackle for the Cleveland Browns. Cedric Tillman, a weapon for Jameis Winston, is out for this one as well. So because of the injuries, plus I feel like at home Denver should be able to control things here. I'm going to take Denver as 6-point favorites. When it comes to the total, it's sitting at 42.5. I do like the defense on both sides, but I'm going to say the over here. I do think a little bit of offense could be sprinkled in this game. And the Browns offense, they like to throw the ball and like to try and get the ball downfield. And under the radar, I mean, Denver can do the same. They can pass the ball really well. I mentioned Courtland Sutton being very strong this year. Minus that plus the run game, they've been very strong there as well. So because of that, I think the points will be able to be put up in this game. I'll take the over 42.5. So it should be an interesting one. Tune into that one tonight at 8:15 in Denver. But that'll do it for episode 25 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast. Please subscribe below. I've been Zach Malamud. Thanks for watching. Talk to you all on Wednesday.